Iowa Democrats are seeing red these days, and not just because of those proposals like cutting taxes for companies or putting cameras in classrooms so that parents can watch teachers. The Democrats know Republicans have found much more success from Iowans lately. Now, a Democrat who has advised a lot of candidates over the years will join us.
Gary Serbisek, Mayor of Cedar Rapids, Lee Clancy, Mayor of Cedar Rapids, Tom Vilsack, Governor of Iowa, Howard.
It's going to go on for a while. Matt Paul has advised a lot of candidates over the years. He's going to address the Democratic angst right now about how little money some prominent candidates are raising. It's obviously still going here. Tom Harkin, Howard Dean, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. I think that's most of them here. He's also going to share where his party's focus should be right now to try to earn back Iowans' trust. Plus, we'll have another Matt here, too. Iowa Lottery CEO Matt Strawn. He's going to address the new competition for the lottery. What is sports betting doing to business? And in the Insider's Quick Six, a prediction about Iowa's longest-serving U.S. Senator, Chuck Grassley.
From your local election headquarters, this is the Insiders with Dave Price.
The Iowa Parole Board decided that one of the most notorious scammers in the history of the Iowa Lottery will serve 1/5 of the time in prison that the courts originally gave him. Now, Eddie Tipton was not actually a lottery employee, but he did work as a vendor and a computer programmer. He tried to scam the system and anonymously claim a $16.5 million jackpot back in 2010. Eventually, he got busted, sentenced to 25 years in prison. He's going to get out after 5 years, though.
Looking back at a few of those things that the Iowa Lottery did do right. For example, when we have those high-tier winners, one of the first things we do is we go to our retailers and grab things like security footage. And then we have things such as, we want to know who you are if you're a winner. So when that claim was attempted to be claimed anonymously, it was refused. So I want to make sure there were many Iowans that were involved in identifying, prosecuting, and convicting Eddie Tipton, and they get a lot of credit. So as we look to recent news with the parole, I'll tell you the same thing I told the parole board when we had heard that this was a possibility, that we had some concerns. And those concerns weren't related to the parole board. We understand that they have a lot of different competing interests that they have to balance. But when you look at what the lottery, really what our mandate is to the state, is to responsibly raise revenue. And how do we do it? By putting entertaining products into the marketplace. People aren't going to trust those products if they feel they're going to have an unfair chance to win a prize. So when we communicated with the parole board, as you're working through this agreement, there were 3 things that the lottery wanted to see in an agreement with Eddie Tipton. One, pretty basic. We don't want him playing any Iowa Lottery games. We don't want him purchasing our products, but more importantly, we want in his parole agreement adding himself to the self-exclusion list, which means he cannot play products or play games, and he can't be paid prizes. Second, we asked the parole board to include in his agreement that he cannot play any multi-jurisdiction lotto games. As you know, he was a vendor he was an employee for a lottery vendor that administered multi-jurisdiction lotto games.
So not really a direct employee of the lottery.
That's correct, and that was one thing that I think was when I was first nominated to this position, was up at the Capitol talking to legislators, a few of them, hey, what are you going to do about that employee, that was doing things, and it told me that there was a lot of confusion out there, that he was never an Iowa Lottery employee, but he was an employee with a vendor that administered these multi-jurisdiction lotto games. So we want a condition in his parole that he can't play multi-jurisdiction games anywhere, especially I think he's headed to Texas. And then the third one, we want to make sure he can't profit from his crimes. And I know there are laws on the books in different jurisdictions, but we want to make sure in the parole agreement, we're talking book deals, movie rights, feature films, paid speaking engagements. We believe it's just sound public policy not to have criminals profit from their crimes.
And can you have it written in there so that it doesn't matter whether he's living in Iowa, Texas, the Bahamas, whatever? Can it be that restrictive where he literally can't profit anywhere in the world, or is it in the States? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll leave the details to the lawyers who are still working through that. I know our general counsel is working with not only the Board of Parole, but the Attorney General's office and the Department of Corrections to make sure those things are addressed, because this really gets to the heart of the matter. Somewhere, maybe even later today or maybe tomorrow morning, somebody here in Iowa, hopefully a lot of people, are going to be walking into a grocery store, convenience store, to buy that lottery ticket. And when you're buying a $2 Powerball ticket and dreaming about what you'll do with that jackpot, or maybe you're grabbing a $5 scratch ticket for a little entertainment, you need to have confidence that that product, you have a fair opportunity to win. And when you look at what Eddie Tipton did, he threatened the very confidence that Iowa lottery players have to have. And it isn't just for the players, but when you think, when legislators created the lottery 36 years ago, why did they do it? To raise money for important state causes. So if we start losing the integrity of our products, that means we are not selling products. It means we're not raising revenue for things like the Iowa Veterans Trust Fund and all those things that the legislature uses lottery proceeds to support here in the state.
So I appreciate that you weren't on the job when he committed the crime here, but this is part of your life here that you have to deal with the aftermath. Does it, and also you knew this was a chance he'd get out early. Does it tick you off in the sense that he's not going to serve his full time, and big picture, he's never going to repay the lottery for the damage he caused? Like, is that fair?
No, it's a great question, and that was part of the communication I had with the parole board and doing things like this, making sure the public understands two things related to this parole. One, that it should serve as a deterrent. His sentence should serve as a deterrent to somebody out there right now that is trying to think up a scheme to defraud or cheat the lottery. But two, and going back to what I said earlier, maintaining the trust and confidence in those that not only buy lottery products, but those good causes that rely on the proceeds generated by lottery products. That's the thing that I want to make sure is crystal clear in the minds of Iowans and all stakeholders we have, that in this parole agreement, it does need to be ironclad, because we have to have integrity in these products, or you're ultimately not going to have a lottery and causes supported by it.
Coming up, what it's like to go up against Jamie Foxx and the Manning brothers. We'll tell you what Matt Strawn thinks about the celebrity factor when it comes to sports betting.